Jibin, Ravi, thanks for joining our conversation. So today we're continuing our series where we feature our favorite clients of Precious Payloads, and ResearchSat stands out to me because of the work that you do for life sciences and for the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm really excited to learn more together with our audience about what you guys do and why the work that you do matters for the whole humanity here on Earth, and how do you guys leverage the space domain to make your research better. So yeah, like if you could say a few words about what you do, where you're from.
We are from South Australia, a space-based company where we are developing the satellites for life science missions. What it means in a nutshell is we like to send a few microbes like fungi, bacteria, virus to the space and allow them to mutate in the space environment, and to quantify those results and to bring back for the post-mission analysis, which will help us to develop a few therapeutics that may address existing problems or even the future pandemics. Why it is different or how it is different from Earth is few factors. One is the space radiation, which is an additional variable that gives us the new mutated variants that may occur in the future, even on the Earth. And the other is microgravity. Microgravity is an interesting property that is very unique to the space environment. It's more like an inflation. If you consider a cell as a water balloon, when we take this balloon into the space, it just inflates because there is no additional forces acting on that balloon.
Right.
Because of this, the protein molecules within the cells can rearrange among themselves by the additional factors, which gives us the new properties or new genetics to the cell. If it is a stem cell, it creates a new variants in the entire species. And we want to quantify that research.
Yeah, if I may ask, like before you go even deeper into that topic, if I may ask, like why space? Because from what I understand is that the microgravity and the radiation can be replicated in laboratory results. Like let's say you have a drop tower, right? That will give you like a few seconds of microgravity. You can have, space radiation emulated in the lab conditions. So why space?
As you mentioned, we can only able to achieve few seconds of microgravity, even with a parabolic flight, few minutes of microgravity. And when it comes to the cost, it would be much cheaper to send it into the space and allow them to mutate and bring them back. And moreover, each lab science experiment will take a few hours to few weeks in order to get some valid results out of them. You may have to make one single medicine, a new medicine, it takes 20 years. Of the 20 years, first 5 years is completely this kind of research, drug discovery research.
I think they should become like a golden quote of yours, like getting into space is cheaper than doing the lab or like parabolic flights and everything. Yeah, that's a good achievement of the space industry. That now people like you can say, hey, like actually sending into space is like a couple of weeks is cheaper than doing anything else. It's very good. It's a good result. If I may also ask, is the work that you do a part of the ongoing research where like, let's say you're working towards some potential like results that could be applied in the pharmaceutical industry, for example, and that's like a part of that research, or is it something completely new that you guys came up with for the space environment testing?
The research which we are doing is purely related to the pharmaceutical industries, where we want to develop new therapeutics based on their existing molecules. The medicine or the chemical formula is safe, but the behavior of the microbe will change in the microgravity, and we want to analyze it, how exactly these molecules behave. And past NASA mission shows that the cells are developing the resistance to these antibiotics, and we may have to investigate and discover new antibiotics even for the astronaut health. This resistance can happen even in on the ground molecules, on the ground microbes. So we want to quantify them.
And I guess like taking such a project off the ground, like literally, requires a lot of the engineering and a lot of like rethinking how you conduct the experiment, how you set up the proper environment for the experiment. So walk me through maybe like a few steps of how did you get get from idea first to where you are now? And by the way, yeah, where you are now in developing that like an experiment pod for the space environment, and what were the main sort of challenges that you had faced when you were designing that experiment?
Yeah, designing them is not that easy. And moreover, we are designing something that is not available in the market and it is completely new. It's a completely new research. And we did, I mean, this is why even we registered our company in 2018 and had an idea. In
Mm-hmm.
2022, we are doing this suborbital mission.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 4 years, this kind of iterations happened in development of our payload. I mean, the challenges is coming to the size and volume, which is like
Mm-hmm.
in a space specific issues. But apart from that, we want to maintain the temperature internally, like we are dealing with the live cells. How it is different from a typical satellite is if few components are not, if they are sensitive to the heat, they will
Mm-hmm.
try to find out heat resilient components. There can be alternatives for the space radiation. They
Mm-hmm.
can have the space hardened electronics, but that won't be the case with the molecules or with the microbes. We want to create the habitat around them, which gonna protect them from the heat sensitivity and also from the space radiation, and
Mm-hmm.
allowing them to have their own microgravity as a variable. And
Mm-hmm.
again, vacuum pressures, that's a big issue. So most of our research work is depending on the materials and protecting systems and maintaining the habitat. And one other challenge we came across is the tiny microscopes, where we
Mm-hmm.
want to fit the lab desk microscopes into a miniaturized Big Mac size payload. So that's one of the challenging.
And like when you keep listing all those, to me, then they are like subsystems of this like experimental pod. Like I can imagine that should be like a huge, big satellite system that you are working on from scratch. And like how bad it is, like, because you keep listing, like you need to do the temperature control, you need to put the microscopes, you need, I guess, like beam down the data from the satellites back to your like station at the office. So yeah, how big is that? How complex is that?
The challenges always comes when we are trying to do it at much cheaper price, a
Mm-hmm.
smaller size. If the price, I mean the cost and the size is not an issue for us, then we
Yep.
could have pulled this thing off much quicker. But for now, designing the subsystems at a smaller scale, like a micro
Mm-hmm.
engineering, that is the biggest challenge. And establishing those things is expensive. But once we're able to figure out the design or fabrication processes, then
Mm-hmm.
it would be much cheaper when it compared to big glass satellites.
Jibin, Ravi mentioned about the suborbital flight, and we've been working with you specifically on that opportunity. So, can you tell a bit why you chose suborbital flight as I guess this, like, if your microgravity duration requirements are within weeks, and that's definitely not something that you can achieve with suborbital flight. Like, why did you choose a suborbital flight as a stepping stone towards the larger mission? And like, what are the steps towards achieving the results that you are trying to get? Like, what's beyond suborbital flight? Like, what's next for you beyond the, like, what I understand is that suborbital flight will give you some like minutes of, maybe like dozens of minutes of microgravity at most, and then I assume that would be a stepping stone towards the next mission that would give you the result of days and weeks of microgravity. So like, can you walk me through like what's your roadmap towards achieving the results for your research in terms of utilizing the space environment?
For us, one of the main reasons we chose the suborbital flight is because we want to develop those key critical technologies within our payload that is crucial for us to run long-term low Earth orbit missions. And our missions would involve either orbital missions around the Earth as a satellite of its own, or integrated aboard the ISS. But the technologies for that, we are developing it and using the suborbital mission as a test bed. So even if the entire microgravity in time duration is hopefully in a few minutes, it'll help us to validate the technologies we have developed, and we'll build upon that knowledge and that experience to aim for our low Earth orbit mission next year. So it's an exciting one for us because for us as a team, it's our first major rocket launch mission. We have done a few suborbital missions via atmospheric balloons over the last 2 years. In fact, we had one just last month as well. But while those missions were successful, our first major mission aboard a rocket will be in October. And the challenges of developing the payload systems to make it functional and perform as we design it to will be very different when it comes to a rocket mission, because initially, even with the launch conditions as well, there's a lot of dynamic vibration, and there's a lot of points of structural failure which we need to account for when we design payload. And then that's the first part. And then there's a part of even monitoring the experiment as it runs in microgravity, then collecting those results and then sharing with the researchers. This whole timeline, we are replicating it as a testbed in our suborbital mission from Sweden in October. And for that, we have, thanks to you guys, we have been able to identify a launch provider with the Swedish Space Corporation. And we're working towards developing a contract to running the mission in October. Long term, we would use suborbital missions as testbeds to show researchers, because some of the researchers they do want to test the hypothesis for their experiments in suborbital missions before they commit to repeat low Earth orbit missions. And researchers, they wouldn't be convinced by an anomaly they see in one mission. They want to verify that it's an actual anomaly they see in the molecule. And for that, we'll have repeated low Earth orbit missions.
Yeah, I think it's a great summary of what a complex, like development of complex systems should look like in terms of not only like the roadmap to mature the Terra level for like one approach, but really designing the whole approach and how to run the hypothesis and experiments to test those for like complex research that you guys do. So like starting from high altitude balloon flights to suborbital flights and then to orbital missions, and not doing that once, as you know a lot of companies do, even if they do. Like I think the worst case is that if the company straight ahead commits to the orbital launch, then it's going to take them years and years to prepare that. And you know, there's not only one single point of failure, so the success rate of those missions is really low. But really, like establishing an always present supply chain that enables you to rapidly test your hypothesis based on requirements from the clients, it's a really good approach. Yeah. And by the way, like between you and Ravi, you said two things that stood out to me. First, Ravi mentioned about the cost savings that you're able to achieve, and you also, Jibin, mentioned about the researchers that are going to be utilizing the results of your mission. So can you perhaps say a few words about like your business model and especially how you get the funding for all those costly missions that you're undertaking now?
Regarding to the funding, it's more like any other startup trying to raise the funding from the investors. But our business model is mostly based on the contract, outcome-based contracts, which means like we will propose them what they have now and what they can go with our technology. And we'll like to list them what would be the benefits with this technology and how they are new in the market. And what would be the IP value they're able to develop with our missions. And if they like it, they will be our first clients, investors. And we like to take from there. And we are focusing the investors in the biotech field and the biotech companies, medium and big scale companies, instead of going for any other angel investors. We want like a specific investors to support us. In this journey, we able to convince one client investors. They started as clients who are interested to develop a drug discovery mission with us. And they later interested in what we are doing, and now they are part of our company.
Yeah, I think it's the holy grail of any company that is doing the space-based research or like space or like if the part of the business model is deploying assets to the space environment. I think the holy grail is that if your missions and your operations are paid by the customer, or if non-space investors invest in your company because they believe that you can bring more value towards what they already do, that's the best outcome. Like if you're able to pull this off, you are in a great spot for the whole life of your company, I would say, and it's a great path to be on.
Yeah,
definitely.
Before reaching out to the space investors, we want to reach out to the biotech investors. Space is just a means. Our main business circle is kind of biotech and pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, Ravi used to throw in the quotes that I really want to just put them somewhere on social media and then say, hey, this guy knows what he's doing with the space segment. Yeah, it's exactly what needs to be happening in the industry more and more.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I think I ran out of questions, and as expected, as I was teasing to Jibin, this is like I heard exactly what I wanted and exactly what I predicted to hear. So yeah, like I'm really excited to be working with you guys, and on behalf of my entire team, like we really want to be investing in your success with our time and efforts, and really want to use you as an example of a great company that is solving the problems here on Earth while utilizing space segments as just one of the tools to enhance the research that you guys do. That's a great example.
We are excited to be working with you on such a complex mission as rocket missions. Yeah, it's been, I think the work you do with us has made easier for us to concentrate on the product development itself, because otherwise a lot of time would be devoted in contacting launch providers and finding out the launch schedules and negotiating with them. So we appreciate the work you take that off our plate in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do, liberating the engineering time of our clients to let them work on what matters to their core business and not the space nerdiness, I would say. Thanks, Jibin. Thanks, Ravi. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, Andrew.